Chucky, you there? Sir Chucky?
Nope.
How are you? All right, Chucky. Chucky. Chuck.
See.
All right.
See.
Awesome. Chucky, let me ask you a question. Okay?
Uh-oh.
This seems silly. But the question is this.
I am silly.
All right. If your parents ask you to take out the trash and clean your room, what does that mean?
I don't know.
What does it mean? What do you have to do?
Get mad and don't do it.
Oh, you don't? You do it, right?
I do the trash, but not my room.
Not your room. So do you get in trouble?
No.
Why not? Yeah, you do.
A
If
little
your
bit.
parents say, hey, Chucky, I need you to take out the trash and clean your room, and you don't do one of them, you get in trouble, right?
A little bit.
All right. Why do you get in trouble?
Because I didn't do it.
You didn't do what?
I don't know. My room.
Your room. Very good. So in math, we have these things called compound inequalities, which is basically going to be, for lack of a better term, it's a combination of two inequalities. And they could either be an and inequality, I should probably just rewrite that. An and inequality, or an or inequality. Now, Chucky, when I said your parents ask you to take out the trash and clean your room, I use this word and, right?
Sure.
And the word and means you have to do both, correct?
Maybe.
Maybe. No, it means you have to do both. If I say, Chucky, can you do the dishes and take out the trash? You have to do both, right?
No.
No, it means you have to do both. I'm telling you, that's what it means, Chucky. All right,
Oh,
now,
man.
Chucky, from our conversation here, you seem like you're a more of an or individual. An or individual, Chucky, if I said, hey, Chucky, can you clean your room or take out the trash? What are you going to do?
One of them.
One of them. Very good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what or inequalities mean. You have to satisfy one of the inequalities. So let's scroll down and look at and inequalities. Okay. And inequalities mean that you have to satisfy both parts of the inequality. Meaning you have to do both things. Like if I say take out the trash and clean your room, you have to do both things or you get in trouble. And that's what you have to do with inequalities. Now, and inequalities, okay, these are key words with it or key concepts. You're going to shade in between. So you're going to be shading in between your values. Now, I know you guys at home can't see it, but this kind of stinks. All right, so Nate, Katie, and Grace, you're going to have 2 points on your graphs now, okay? And inequalities, you're going to shade in between your 2 points. Or inequalities, you're going to shade away. Got it? And, or. You okay with that, Katie? Now, the reason why I tell you this, that and inequalities shade towards each other, is because when you're on the keystones, or when you're taking your SATs, or you're taking a test for me, some of the questions might be multiple choice. And you're going to look at certain things like open and closed circles. Are they shading in between or away? And knowing those things are going to allow you to eliminate answers. Okay? For example, if I'm eating the X, I know I have to shade to the right. If I have a line under my inequality, I know it's a solid circle. So I can go through my answers and eliminate which ones don't meet those criteria. And then there might be 1 left, there might be 2 left, and you can make an educated guess. But with and or inequalities, and when we're doing multiple choice, you can look, are both circles closed? Is one open? Is one closed? Are they both open? Am I shading in between or am I shading away? So now you get all these other different things that you can look for and hopefully use to your advantage. So let's look at how to solve these. Now these are all and inequalities because notice X, Y, and Z are in between 2 values. You guys all see that? Now, what I want you guys to do is I really want you to focus on this middle part of the inequality. Katie, how do you get rid of -5? +5. So if I'm trying to undo that -5, because that's what's with the X, I am going to add the 5. Now, there's 3 parts. I have the middle, the left, and the right. If we don't do it to each part, the house is sort of going to fall apart, okay? So you got to keep it balanced. So now these symbols drop straight down, okay? -7 + 5 is -2. These cancel, I'm left with X. 4 + 5 is 9. Nate, so far so good? Now, here's the thing. X is where, Nate? Between or in the middle of those 2 numbers, right? So when I make my number line, right, I have my number line here. Yeah, that was awesome. I just made a number line with the exact number of numbers I wanted. Pretty cool. See this -2, Nate? That's an open circle. See that 9? That's an open circle. And you said X is in the middle of those 2 or in between those 2 values. So we shade in between. See how that worked? John. John? Okay. Cody.
Yeah.
Cody, how would we go about solving 2y + 4?
Would you subtract 4?
All right, we're going to subtract 4. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that 4. That's going to leave me with 6. Remember, we have these 3 sections. This sign comes straight down. This sign comes straight down. So we have 6. Oops. -4. Those are going to cancel. We're left with 2y. 24 - 4 is 20. Now what, Cody?
I guess make a number line.
What's that?
Would you make the number line now?
Well, not just yet, because look at what's with the y. What's still with the y?
Divide the 2y by 2.
Yeah, I'm going to have to divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. The y's cancel. 20 divided by 2 is 10. And now I'm going to make that number line. So I'm going to have a closed circle at 3, a closed circle at 10. Notice the y is where, Katie? It's what? It's in between. Do you see how the y is in between those two numbers in that sentence? So we're going to shade in between. So far, so good, Grace? Okay. Now, number 6, it's a little tricky. So I'm going to put a star next to it. And if you know me, that star probably means something, right? Grace? How do I get that z by itself? What's the first step there? So I'm going to go ahead and add that 1, right? So let's see what we got. So -7 plus 1 is -6. That line comes, or that symbol comes down. Those cancel. I'm left with -z in the middle. 3 plus 1 is 4. So far, so good, Grace? Now, what's with that z? What's in front of that z? How do we get rid of times -1? Yeah? And remember, you need to flip the sign. Because when we divide by that -1, right? When we divide by that -1, we're dividing by a negative. So here, my sign flips. Flips. So 6, -z divided by -1 is just z. 4 divided by -1 is -4. Now, this doesn't really throw a wrench into anything, right? Because I can make my number line. This gets an open circle, right? This gets an open circle. And the z is in between those two. So we shade in between. Feeling all right? Not too bad. Nate, doing okay? Mike, doing all right?
Yeah,
You sure?
I believe so.
All right, cool. I'm going to give you a second to make sure we get this. All right. Or inequalities means that we have to satisfy one of the inequalities. Now, with these, they're easy to identify. They always have this word or. And inequalities sometimes don't have the word and. Sometimes they just have that number line like we just did. And sometimes they do have that word and. Got it, Nate? But the way I do it is this. If it doesn't have the word or in it, it's an and inequality. Got it? Or inequalities always have the word or. So these or inequalities, they shade away from each other. So and inequalities look like this, all right? They shaded towards each other. Or inequalities shade away. So before I'm even doing these problems, I know my answer is going to be shading outwards, away from each other. I already know this, Grace. See these two? They both have open circles in this. This one, I'm going to have one closed and one open. I'm telling you this because when you're on your keystones, that's a nice little bit of information. I can go through and I can eliminate any multiple choice that don't have two open or don't have one open and one closed. So for these are the ones that are, it's kind of mean of me to make you do it. Why is it mean, Nate? Well, you have one inequality here, two inequalities, right? One inequality, two inequalities. So I have really four inequalities I need to solve. So my first step over here, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to this inequality. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 1, just like I'm solving a two-step inequality. So 3h is less than -6. Divide by 3, and I have h is less than -2. Easy enough? Katie, okay with this? You can lie to me and say no. It's okay. He's like, that wouldn't be lying. That would be telling the truth. All right. Now, for this side, I'm going to forget this equation. And I'm just going to look to solve this side. So I'm going to go ahead and add 5. That gives me 2h is greater than 12. Divide by 2, and I have h is greater than 6. Joey, are we okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Feeling good? Okay. Now, I have this number line, right? All right, I have my number line. I am going to graph both of these on my number line. So I'm going to first put an open circle at -2. Let me do that. I'm going to put an open circle at -2. And I'm going to put an open circle at 6. Now, this is why I told you, you should know what your graph looks like before you do the problem. I said these shade away from each other, right? If they shade away from each other, because it's or, this green one needs to shade to the right, and this blue one needs to shade to the left. Now, I can check it. H is less than -2. I'm not eating the variable, I shade to the left. I can check this one. I'm eating the H, I'm shading to the right. But Grace, do you see what I mean? It's easier to know and shade towards each other or shade away. I find that more helpful. All right. So for number 10, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. I have 4c less than or equal to -4. Divide by 4. And I have c is less than or equal to -1. Here, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. It's going to give me 5c is greater than 20. Divide by 5, and I have c is greater than 4. Here, c is less than -1. It's going to be a closed circle, and I'm shading to the left. This one, open circle, shading to the right. We doing okay? All right. These, I find these very easy. Here's what I do. Anywhere that's shaded, I put an X, okay? Annie. Annie,
Yeah.
I know, you're so happy. I can tell. Annie,
I'm so
do you see how this area right here is shaded? Do you see that?
yeah.
So I put an X there. Annie, what number is this?
-6.
And is it an open or closed circle? Open or closed? Annie? Do we just lose Annie? I know. Annie? Oh. Ellie? They're all like ditching me. And it's my birth week. Who does that? Ellie,
Yeah.
Ellie, is that an open or closed circle?
Is it? I don't know.
Well, look at the two circles in problem A. And one of them's
Oh,
closed and the other's open.
It's both. Wait,
It-
for the first one or the second one?
First one.
Oh, it's both. It's open and closed.
I know, but just at -6. What is it? Open or closed?
Closed.
Closed. So with these, notice X is in between -6 and 3. And it's a closed circle at -6, and it's an open circle at 3. Now I'm always going to be using the symbols that open to the right. So either it has a line under it or it doesn't. So let's look at B. Jules. So Jules, you got to unmute yourself for this. Jules. Jules.
Good, Mom.
It's like, why bother? Killing it.
Call Grammy.
Well, I guess we're getting close to that.
Because of it.
All right, who do I pick now?
And they were seniors.
Hmm. I don't want you to admit to turning off your sound. No, it's okay, Katie. I know. The sound doesn't always work. But Katie just volunteered. Katie, what number is that? -3. What number is that? And see how we're shading in between? Do you see that? So x is going to be, now that's an open circle, in between -3 and 6. Do you see how I did that? Pretty simple, right? Now, or inequalities, just as easy. See the gap in between them? Over that gap, I just write the word or. Or. Now watch what I do here. Do you see this, how this is shaded, Katie? See that? I put an X. It's always that symbol, and I put that number, -5. You okay with that, Grace? This one, that's 4. It's a closed circle, and this is my shaded line, X. Last but not least, down here, X. Now that's a closed circle, so -4, or 5 is less than X, or equal to. Got it? All right.